Okay, then I'm going to share this screen. Okay, everybody, good afternoon. Welcome. Hopefully you can still hear me and see the first slide of this presentation related to retrofitting digital print heads to existing converting equipment for the corrugated industry. Again, we're going to be recording this presentation, so don't worry if you miss something or whatever. We're going to be sending it out to you so you have it and you can share it with whoever you like. And if you have any questions, probably as you come in, what we'll do at the end is go ahead and just type them into the chat space on Zoom, and then I'll kind of read those and go through those at the end, and that'll be a good way to get any questions answered. But with that, let's get started. Putting inkjet heads on existing converting equipment is not exactly something new to the packaging industry, but it is new to the corrugated industry. And my company, Digital Print Incorporated, or DPI, has been the first to bring high-speed digital printing equipment to the corrugated industry, that is retrofitting it to existing corrugated equipment, whether it be printing equipment or just converting equipment in general, like corrugators. Again, other packaging industries have been doing it for many years now, and very successfully, but not the corrugated industry. So what is digital print retrofitting? It's kind of just what it sounds like. It's taking a print head, doesn't have to be one size or another. We can do just about any size you want, and applying it to the inside of an existing piece of equipment, like a die cutter or a flexo folder gluer or a corrugator or whatnot. Some of the key aspects of that is it can be made in any width you want. Our smallest head is 4¼ inches, and we've looked at stuff to go over 100 inches wide. So that's not a problem. Our print heads can actually run faster than most corrugated converting equipment. So we have stuff that's running up to 1,200 feet a minute. And I'm going to try to put this little video on right now so you can see how fast, and hopefully I'm not going to be right in front of one of your pictures here, but if you look at this video, this machine is running at 1,200 feet a minute. It's the fastest flexo folder gluer I've ever seen. It's more like a folding carton machine, but our machine is keeping up with it. So I'll show you this. I'm going to stop it right there because this goes down and takes a lot more time to show you. But basically what that printer was doing was printing certain ident boxes, just so that this company could just eliminate those setups and plates and everything else. So it's amazing how fast you can be. So there's also no limit to the repeat length. So like in flexo printing, you have a cylinder repeat, and that's the length you can do. In digital, you can do any length you want. We can print in conjunction with existing flexo equipment. So if you put this on some sort of a flexo printing machine, we can look at this as another color if you want it to be. So it can print with those existing flexo equipment or on its own. And of course, one of the things that is really key to this whole thing is you can print both static information like you do with a Flexo, or you can print variable information, which is something that Flexo cannot do. So with that, we'll go on. So why retrofit? Why, many of you out there may be saying, hey, my Flexos run fine, I don't need that. But the one issue that I hear nowadays when I go out into the field is that how busy everyone is. Everyone is, pushing the envelope as far as how much footage or number of boxes they can push out. And they are limited mostly by their capacity to do that work or the people. So, many of you complain, I can't get the people, so I can't expand the number of hours I work, and I can't get more machines because I don't have room in my plant for more machines, or I don't have enough money to buy a $2 million extra Flexo or die cutter or whatnot. So this is where digital can help you to take what you have and get more out of it. So we're doing that by eliminating print setups and wash-ups, eliminating printing plates, and eliminating machine passes for things like double-sided printing, which is becoming more and more popular, or printing on machines that typically don't print, things like flatbed die cutters or folder gluers. If you can eliminate that pass, that's going to give you more time to print as well. So efficiency is a big reason why digital printing will come to be a big part of the corrugated industry. But the second reason is to add customer value. And that is done through variable printing. I mean, it also, obviously, a customer would think you're valuable if you didn't have to charge them for printing plates. But the ability to do variable printing is a customer value that is key, and it will probably again be the reason why digital printing truly takes off in the years to come. The last thing that digital printing would do for you is also accelerate your speed to market. So you can literally take a piece of artwork off of your phone, send it to the printer, and be printing in a matter of minutes. This is something that really cannot be done in analog or Flexo systems, and it'll be another key to how things move in the future. So let's talk about certain ident jobs. Most people don't realize it, but this type of work is the largest part of the brown box market. I go into companies that do as much as 70% of all of their work is certain ident work. And it's not sexy, but it takes as much time to set up those little jobs as it does to set up much more intricate artwork. And with the number of jobs going up in the industry and the shortness of the runs going down or getting shorter runs, you have many, many, many more of these jobs and many, many more of these setups. So if you can eliminate those setups without decreasing your speed or anything else, it's amazing. I have companies that are picking up hours per day by just doing this with a relatively small investment in digital printing equipment. And it's amazing how quick the ROI is for these types of machines. You can do this, again, just this kind of work with a relatively small head. You could take our smallest head, 4¼ inches, and do this kind of work. And it's really easy to do. And again, you can go from one job to another in a matter of seconds. Again, the other big opportunity we talked about was for high-speed digital technology to print variable printing. That is the ability to make each box unique through the use of either variable barcodes, sequential numbering, or anything like that. There's all kinds of uses. Variable barcodes are being used today by most of your box customers, but you just may not know about it. And your customers, it's unfortunate, but they don't know that you have the capability to print variable information, so they don't ask you about it. So what these customers are doing is they're going out and getting variable barcode labels being printed, and they have to slap them on the side of the box at the end of their process. It's an expensive proposition, and it's one you can eliminate. So barcodes being printed directly on the corrugated with our type of technology can save the customer anywhere from 2 to 3 cents a box. That may not sound like a lot, but when you get into customers have a lot of boxes, it can truly add up. And the hassle factor of not having to deal with those labels is a huge aspect of this. Most of the people that deal with these little labels, they would love to get rid of them. So something to think about. Variable printing can also help your customers combat product counterfeiting, which we all know is a big issue all over the globe, and help them with things like track and trace, which is a huge issue with things like fresh produce and meats, anything that's fresh that has a kind of a time stamp to it, or that can go bad and they want to recall it. That's a key thing with this type of technology that can really enhance that, so they can know, hey, I need to go back and get a product from this date or this number of boxes. Having sequential numbering or barcode information for that would be very helpful. People will really, they have tended to gravitate toward this type of retrofitting initially because of the economics of just getting rid of plates and setups and things like that. And that's great. And I think there's definitely a need for that. But ultimately, I think customers will want to print variable information on all their cartons like they do on a lot of other of their packaging. So things to know about retrofitting, before you go much further, you need to know things about digital printing in general, which are different from flexo and other ways you may put graphics on a box. So one, in digital, print heads must always print down. Think of an inkjet head as a giant eyedropper, and it takes gravity to drop that drop of ink onto the substrate. So it can only print down. It can't print to the side, it can't print up, it can't print sideways, whatever. Second, the box must always be flat and stable running under the print head. These, we print at really close to the substrate, anywhere from 1 to 3 millimeters. So you can't have the box bouncing around, or you're just going to hit the head and cause problems. So that's one thing you need to really understand. Third is that the types of things that we're trying to do are really for the industrial box market. We're focusing on speed and efficiency, and so we're printing on uncoated substrates, things like kraft, model white, bleach, where we don't need dryers no matter how fast we're going. And so we're not trying to print on clay coated substrates with this technology. So understand that. For our print heads, our ink systems are self-contained. So you're not going to have the mess or the waste that you have with typical flexo systems. When I talk to people in the corrugated industry, they say, I said, how much ink do you use? And they say, well, you really be talking to me about how much I waste. And with an inkjet system, it's all self-contained. There's no spilling, there's no messing, and really don't waste any. So when you compare digital printing ink to flexo ink, a lot of people raise their eyebrows when they hear how much the ink costs in digital versus flexo. And that is absolutely true. On a per liter basis, flexo ink is much cheaper than digital printing. But in digital, you put less on, you waste less, and overall, the cost per MSF, the actual cost that it costs you, is relatively the same. So, and then you take into consideration all the savings that you get to, just keep running and no plates and no setups, and inkjet comes out well ahead. So just think about those things. So what types of converting machines can be retrofit? Can we retrofit anything? No. But can we retrofit most things? Yes. Top printing flexo equipment, or top printing anything, is really our easiest thing to retrofit. There's a lot of flexos out there like that. Bottom printing flexo folder gluers can be retrofit, but it's typically after the box is folded and glued, but before it goes into the stacker. And there's usually enough space in there to put a printer. The downside to that is that you only can print on half the box, but it can be. And so if you're doing certain ident work or whatever, you want to do that kind of work, it's certainly open to you even on a bottom printing flexo folder gluer. Rotary die cutters are typically bottom printers and typically cannot be retrofit for printing on the outside of the box. However, inside the box printing is becoming so, big part of what the corrugated industry is about, that we see a lot of opportunity there to do that. And so that would be definitely something that can be retrofit, is for printing on the inside of the box in our rotary die cutter. Fourth, a flatbed die cutter will typically be retrofit as part of a pre-feeder, because there's not a good way to get inside the die cutter to retrofit inside. But most of these flatbed die cutters now have some sort of pre-feeder on them, and since they are a top printer kind of a situation, it's relatively easy to retrofit those. And then corrugators, most corrugators can be retrofit, but they have to be retrofit on the wet end of the corrugator where there's not as much heat. And so we're going to talk about that in great detail here in a few more slides, but you should know that most corrugators can be retrofit. But now let's talk about the basic elements of a retrofit system. So obviously you've got the print head, which does the actual printing, and these can be, practically any size you want. And then you've got the transom, which is kind of a metal rod that goes across the width of the converting piece of equipment and allows the head to move anywhere along that rail. And then third, you've got a print head mount, which is just like it sounds. It is attached to the print head, and it mounts to the transom on that mount. So it slides side to side and up and down. And then you got the controller, which is the computer and software that are the brains of the system. And then you've got the cleaning and parking station where a head goes when not printing or is going to be cleaned. That's just a quick overview. Now let's look at each one individually. So you got your print head. Print head on the left is a 4¼ inch wide print head that was on a flexo-folded gluer. It's in a very unique spot on that flexo-folded gluer, right before the folding section. So it's held down in place there very nicely in that section. And I've got a video later in the program here that I'll show you that one running. So the head on the right is a much wider and larger printer that is for a corrugator. And those can be made, 100 inches wide or wider. So all of these heads can print, we're typically, for retrofitting, we're looking at one color, and we're typically looking at one color black, because most people, they don't realize it, but more than 50% of all the business in corrugated is one color black. DPI does make 4-color process printers, but today we're just focusing on retrofitting, and this is kind of what we're using to retrofit. It's a huge opportunity for the market, even if it's just one color black. I mean, we can make it one color or something else, but the reality is you probably don't want to be switching colors in a inkjet machine at this point. So the next part of the retrofit system is a transom. As you can see, it's a rail that the head travels across and goes back and forth to whatever location you want on the print web. On the left is a typical system that you would have like on a flexo folder gluer, and the space in between those two, what look like bolts, that's the width of the printer. And then that thing, the blue thing, looks like a mailbox. That's the print head, and it goes back and forth. On the picture on the right is a system that was on a corrugator. This is only about a 40-inch wide web, or 40-inch wide printer on this corrugator. Most of the ones we have are much wider than that, but I wanted to show you this because it's easier to show how the head goes back and forth and into the print position. So I'll show you this video right now. So that's basically the concept. A lot of the ones on the converting machines like flexo folder gluers and whatnot, we just do those manual because you only have to move them a small distance and whatnot. You just lock them into place. It literally takes seconds. On the corrugator, everything is automated. So what you saw there was an automated system. Each of these transoms and the mount systems is unique to whatever system you have. So we don't take anything for granted. We make sure that we engineer everything to your specific machine. Now we're talking about the printhead mount, and again, it's attached to the printhead and then clamps onto the transom and allows the printhead to move across the transom and then clamp into position at the proper spot on the web. And it not only allows it to go side to side, but there are also pneumatics or small motors on this which allow the head to go up or down. Because when we're out of print position, we're typically an inch or two off of the web. But then when we want to go into print position, we're down, 1 to 3 millimeters from the web. So that's how this does that, is through the head mount. So it's not as simple as it may look. It's a pretty complicated little device. And again, each of these head mounts is unique to your specific machine that we would retrofit to. Next is the controller. Again, it's kind of the brains of the machine. It's shown here on an optional, very optional a rolling cart, which some people like to get for, let's say they have one on a flexo folder gluer. That way they can roll this thing in and out. And this cart also has all the ink stored in it and all your wiring and everything else. So all that comes off of here is, you know, your ink lines and things like that. Again, the controller is the brains of the system, and it's equipped with a touchscreen operator interface for easy operation. The system is incredibly simple to use, and it's the software was designed with brown box operators in mind. So, you know, those of you out there who might have more sophisticated digital machines know that you kind of have to be a color guy sometimes to work them. That is not the case here. This is kind of like off or on. It's, you know, you're in position, go kind of thing. It's very easy to use. And we have a lot of software that comes with this for things like variable printing and things like that. So it's all incorporated into the software. And last but not least, you've got the head cleaning and parking area for the print head. And this is really important because when you're not printing with the machine, you want to take the print head back to the parking station so that it can do periodic purges. And in the case of corrugated, it does automatic wiping and purging at the same time, just to keep the head moist and the nozzles open and clean. It's very, very important to long-term health of the head itself and the nozzles. So that's what really that does. Again, on the ones that are in the smaller heads that sometimes go into things like flexos and whatnot, those are a little more manual, that you take it over to the, but it still does automatic purges and things like that. Whereas the stuff on the corrugator, it's no hands on it. It does everything automatically. So finally, well, I'm sorry, I missed this. So here's a couple of videos to show print heads that have been retrofit. On the left is a single 4 1/4-inch head that was retrofitted to the folding section in a flexo folder gluer. And I'll run that right. And that printer is running variable barcodes. I think it was going like 17,000 boxes per hour. And, you know, each box is unique, and it's a great story there behind that one. And this next one is a box company that bought 2 4 1/4-inch heads, and each one runs independently. So one might have on it a cert stamp and an ident, and the other one would have a variable barcode on it. But you can get what I'm saying is that you can print different things on each one. You can do variable on one, static on another, variable on both, whatever. The software that we have will handle all that. So I'll just show you this. Now, those heads were mounted in between color stations, right in the walkway, and they just take up the walkway, and those go right in there, and it's really easy. So that's where a lot of people tend to put our things on things like Flexa, is in between color stations. So with that, let's go to corrugators, which we haven't talked about in depth yet, but I'd like to now. The reason I make this a separate section is that corrugators are a totally different animal than retrofitting anything else. A lot of the other stuff has some manual aspects to it. Uh, Usually they're a little smaller heads, even though you could do a 100-inch head on a flexo if you want to. But most people have not done that. Whereas, the corrugators typically wider. Again, there's no way you can do it manually and keep up with the continuous nature of a corrugator. So the technology that we've developed here is really potentially game changing for our industry because it allows you to do things continuously. These systems can print any sheet size on a corrugator that you can make. So I've printed stuff as long as like 12 feet long by 50 inches wide. It's crazy type stuff. And all the printing is done on the corrugator wet end, and I'll show you one in use in just a second. There's no effect on the corrugator performance when it's done this way. We've run at 1,000 feet per minute or more on the corrugator. But I think one of the coolest things that we developed here is special software that has been designed to run in conjunction with your existing corrugated order management systems, things like Kiwi and Amtech. We actually work with them to make our software work with theirs. And it allows the printer to run without operator intervention, just the same way that a corrugator operator runs today, and the jobs automatically go from one to another. So does our print head. And it's really amazing to watch because the work is done inputting the information into the system in your, let's say, your customer service area. Once it gets out to the corrugator, nobody really has to do much with it, which is critical to having a continuously run product. So then on the corrugator, in order to run on the wet end, you have to just adjust the web path slightly to allow the print head to print down, as we talked about. So you can see a little line pointing to the actual print head, and you see the new web path. All this new web path of turning the web was designed in conjunction with Fosber, who's a partner of DPI's. So what it does is, if you know how a corrugator works, the liner board comes off of the roll with the print side down, upside down. And so what we do is we turn that web over and allow our print head to print on the outside of the board. Then we quickly turn it back over before it goes into the double back. So it's relatively simple actually, but until we did it, nobody was sure that it would happen. But reality is, web turners in the packaging industry, I've seen hundreds of them all over the world, and they're in other industries, but the corrugated industry has never used them. But we just took those kinds of designs and applied it to the corrugator, and this is the way it does it, and there's no effect on performance whatsoever. So so that's kind of where we are. That's how you print on the wet end. Then this is a video of a DPI corrugator printer running on the wet end of a corrugator, approximately 1,000 feet a minute. So let me show you that. So it really is cool to watch, especially when it automatically goes from one job to the next. And with a wide printer, the head doesn't have to move around much at all. So, and if you were wondering how the system registers the print onto the sheets, it's done with cut to mark technology at the dry end of the corrugator, which our friends at Fosber also have automated to make it very simple to use. If any of you have ever used cut to mark systems on a corrugator in the past, with pre-printed liner board, there's a lot of manual getting the photo eye into place so that it can read the cut to mark. With the new system that we've developed for this, all of that happens automatically. It knows where the print marks are supposed to be, and it goes right to it. And so it's a totally integrated system, and it all works automatically, and you really don't have to touch it. So it's awesome. So that's our basic presentation. Again, I hope this information has been helpful to you. I didn't want it to be too long because a lot of people have work to do. And so I didn't want this webinar to go all day, but I wanted to get you some basic information. So at this point, I'd like to read if we have any questions. I'm going to stop sharing my thing here, and I'm going to go back and see if we have we have 3 questions. So I'm going to read Tony here to everyone. Stu, we just had a fire alarm go off. Please send me the recording. All right, no problem. And then from Mike, what do these systems cost? Okay, that's a great question. I get asked that all the time. And, from our perspective, we want these things to be cost effective. If they cost millions of dollars, you're not gonna think they're cost effective no matter how well they print. So, when you're looking at systems retrofit for like a Flexo or something, a 4 1/4 inch system might start at like $90,000 for all in, install, everything, training, everything, and then a 100-inch wide machine was going to be closer to $1 million. So, and it's everywhere in between that. But the point is that these things are affordable, and the ROIs on them are very short when you look at what they can do for your business. Second question we have here is what does it cost to print with the system and with digital printing ink? That's a great question. Again, typically what we're seeing is that like with a full corrugator where you're printing, graphics wherever, all over, normal corrugated graphics, you're usually talking just a dollar per 1,000 square feet or something like that to print typical corrugated graphics. But things like certain ident work, it's like pennies per 1,000 square feet. For example, I can print a variable barcode that's like 2.5 inches by 3.5 inches, something like that. And that variable barcode will be less than 1/10 of 1 cent to print. And when people are buying variable barcode labels, they're talking about anywhere from 2.5 to 3 cents a piece for those labels, and then they have to apply them. So there's a lot of savings to be had there. But the cost of these things is your real benefit, the efficiencies and things like that. So hopefully that's answered some questions. With that, I'm going to shut off the recording, and I appreciate all your time. Have a good day.